Good morning, traders. Today is Tuesday. It's June 1st. My name is Charles, and this is the Pirate Traders live stream. Backa cue opening music. Okay, so I'm going to do my analysis live here. I didn't have a chance to look before going live. Okay, so this is where we left things on Friday. Okay, it looks like the overnight market and the little bit that it was open yesterday pulled the market down to repair the poor low that was left behind from 527. We'll go ahead and call that an official repair. I'm going to leave it for today. If we don't pull back down and repair it today, I'll call that an official repair. In the meantime, I'll just change it to gray so it doesn't become a distraction. Okay, so what happened was we pulled back down, potentially repaired that poor low because we did it during regular trading hours. We then pushed all the way up in the overnight, and we're now back above that range that we were trading in last week. Okay, so this is a breakout. What we're looking for, we're going to have a gap higher this morning when the market opens. Okay, so as always with a gap, we're looking for, does the market pull back down to Friday's high? Okay, and then find support. If it does, if it fills the gap and then finds support around Friday's high, maybe even comes down here and just repairs this week H period, although that's repaired actually now that the market's opening above it. Anyway, it comes down here to the high, finds support in here somewhere that you could expect a rotation higher, right? This is balance. What happens when you break out of balance? You get excess, right? You get a push to the upside. If you break out to the upside, push to the downside. If you break out to the downside, and now we're breaking out to the upside. Okay, so that's bullish to me, but the first thing I'm watching is the potential gap fill, right? Remember that once the market opens in 1 minute, there will likely be a counter auction to the overnight inventory. The overnight inventory is 100% net long, okay? So there's likely to be some sort of pullback in response to the overnight market being 100% long. And in that pullback, we will attempt to fill the gap. If we can't fill the gap, that is bullish. If we try to pull back and we can't fill the gap, that is bullish for continuation higher. If we fill the gap and then find support, that is bullish for continuation higher. It is only if we fill the gap, if we pull down to yesterday's high and then continue to sell off into yesterday's range, that it becomes a look above and fail, and then expect a rotation to the opposite end of balance. Okay? So that's what we're watching this morning. We're looking for the gap fill. If we don't get it at all, if the market just pushes higher, that's a gap and go. Again, very bullish. Let's see what it does. Okay, the market internals are opening bullish, but as always, with a gap higher in the overnight, we got to give them a little time to settle in. Okay? Super aggressive traders could short the cross back through the opening price here as a potential gap fill and just put their stop losses just above the high we created here. The idea being that if we push back up above the opening price and start making new highs, this may be a gap and go higher. So you would give up on the gap fill play. That it is a very aggressive move to try to short a gap that's this large because they often don't fill. And if a gap doesn't fill, it can find support anywhere randomly and start going back up. So if you're a newer trader, better to wait and see what the market does. Does it fill the gap? If not, then you look for longs, so on and so forth. Good morning, Carlos. Good to see you, brother. Welcome. Things are good. Gianfranco, good morning to you. Marco is here. Good to see you. Naif is back with us. Good morning, brother. Stanley is here. Good morning to you. FRM, good to see you. Parlin back with us. Futures were Naif. Futures were a little less dead overnight. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be. Remember, there's a bunch of traders that just went on vacation. What does a 4 or 5 day vacation probably lead them to want to do the minute they get back to work on Tuesday? Trade, motherfucker. They want to enter a position. So yeah, I do expect we'll see a little more volatility today than we had last week for sure. Jose, good morning to you. Philip is here. Good to see you. DJ Trader. June. I know. I saw a meme the other day that was so funny. It was like, essentially the joke of the meme was that like, it seems like it was January yesterday. Like, it's crazy how quickly the last 6 months have just disappeared. But yeah, it's June already. Wait, did I put the wrong date on the stream? Is that what this is? There you go. That explains it. All right, so it looks like we're getting that gap fill. Or they're trying to anyway. Remember, they can find support on a large gap. They can find support anywhere before filling the gap. Or we find it at Friday's high. Good morning, John Doe. Good morning, Miles. Good morning, Phoenix. Shane, good to see you. Our Kayleon is back. Good morning to you. News blip. It's not anymore. That's the magic of this streaming. I can just change the date, and now anybody that shows up and sees your comments will have no clue what you're talking about. So I win. Nor Auto Trading is with us from Norway. Good to see you, brother. Pug Pack is back. Great observation, Pug Pack. Yeah, they can sometimes get volatility in the overnight just because there's less volume. And they can push it around a little more. But we always correct it once the regular trading hours open, as we are doing now. That is why we have counter auctions to the overnight inventory. Thank you so much to the 18 of you that smashed that like button this morning. Really appreciate you. Helps the algorithm get going as we attempt to fill the gap. Jitin Patel and Element. Good to see you guys. Welcome. Okay, so we haven't quite gotten there yet, but it does feel like when we fill the gap, we might find support here. We're still a few ticks away from filling that gap. If we can't find support somewhere around the high, okay, and then rotate back above yesterday's range, we might see further rotation to the downside. The next support that I see is the POC from yesterday, or from Friday, excuse me, that lines up pretty close to the halfback from overnight. So that is the next support that I see below the high, if the high can't hold this general area. The high, for those of you listening in your car, is 42.15.50. And that POC I'm referring to as being secondary support is at 42.10. Are we finding support at 42.19? Sorry, it's too late for me to answer that question, but no, we were not. Generally, if like you got to think about this thing called like when what should happen, right? Like if the market trades all the way from here to here, that's probably going to fill the gap, right? If they found support above right here at like 42.20, if they found support in here or they found support in here, I would expect it just to gap and go. But if we get all the way down to that 19 level where we're below major nodes from overnight, you expect they're trying to fill that gap. Correct, Miles. If because we had this balancing area that we were stuck in last week. Okay, this area right here. It increases the odds if we rotate back into yesterday's range and we can't immediately pull back up out. It increases the odds, so we have to rotate to the opposite end of the range. It's just a little tricky. I don't really know what exact levels to call what at this point because I don't really know how to treat yesterday's trade. Right? If this was a regular trading hours day, I would trust that this was the pullback low. If it repaired the poor low, it found support, and now we're ready to rotate higher. So I would expect pulling into yesterday's range, this would be as low as we would fall, but I'm just not sure yet. I think I'm going to have to treat yesterday's trade as overnight, in which case I would ignore it, and this is still a poor low, so that becomes the target. Okay, we're like a tick away from that gap fill. So the market profile is still going to show these green arrows, which represent a gap. But again, that's from yesterday's trade. And so I'm going to ignore that and focus on Friday. Still one more tick to go. Okay, so that's the gap filled right there. So now we're looking for the market to start to bring in support. Okay. We want to start turning all these candles. I know they're kind of already pink, but we want to turn all these pink and red and start building up volume down here. And we want to spend as little time as possible inside yesterday's range. The more time we spend down here, the more risky it becomes. We want to just kind of quickly come down here, find support in the next few minutes, and then push back above. If not, further downside continuation. Oh, pug back. Well, there you go. Yesterday's volume was 10% of what it normally is. Jesus. Well, then we're not going to pay attention to that at all. We're going to ignore that. Okay, so we're starting to bring in a little volume just below that high. Could potentially be support stepping in here, but it's not good taper. Okay. Internals starting to creep towards the bearish territory here, trending down in the ticks, and the advancers versus decliners, and just starting to get below the zero line in the ticks. So it's not bearish, but could be the beginning, right? Still no good taper on the low here. Okay, the NQ seems to be finding support here on the 15 moving average. Breaking that to the downside would be the first bearish signal there. Also, the fact that we're spending so much time inside yesterday's range is increasing the odds that the market might need to pull back further here. Got good taper on the low, but really low volume. Let's just pop back over to the NQ real quick. It's starting to look like the ES is going to find support and get back above yesterday's range. Let's see what the Q is going to do. Oof. See, the NQ just pulled back down into this range that it was stuck in all week last week. That's bearish. Oh no, we really need the NQ to pull back up above these highs. This balance area high at 13,736. Want to get back above that because getting pulled back below, you can see. So here's the balance area low. Okay. We looked above on Friday and we've pulled back in, and then they rotated almost to the opposite end. I guess you could say a little past halfway to the opposite end, and then pushed back up again. So if we fail twice, we're almost certainly going to trade to the opposite end of balance. All right, ES getting back above yesterday's high. Very bullish. Can it hold? Okay, printing of the B period. Critical moment here because we're just right on yesterday's high. So we either pull back down into yesterday's range and then likely start one time framing lower, or we find that support, and as I'm saying it, we're pushing higher. So let's just go with, we got good taper on the low. That's bullish. We filled the gap. Sets us up for a bullish push higher. Value overlapping to higher. That's bullish. So we're stacking up bullish signals. As long as we can stay above yesterday's high from this point on, things should look good. But like I said, it's such a pivotal point that if we pull back down in, get below these lows, we're then one time framing and we're looking at probably a rotation to the opposite end of balance. Internals bounced off that zero line, didn't get below it, also bullish. NQ found support on its 20. Okay, NQ, back to testing that 20. We're right back on that line from Friday's high. Okay, well, we're starting to get bearish. We're done, dun, dun, dun. Can we break through this 20 moving average on the NASDAQ? That's bearish. Pulling back down below this high is bearish. They're not making it easy this morning. Okay, remember, the more time we spend down here, the more bearish it becomes. We're spending some time down here. Created a poor low. Getting no push away from the poor low and immediately repairing it is more bearish for further downside continuation. Just waiting for these ticks to start to break below the zero line here. The bodies of the candles getting below the zero line. That'll be the final nail in the coffin to get me short on this market. Philip, we do place bets. That's what trading is. We're all betting where we think the market's going to go all day, every day. And we're putting real money on the line. Okay, this low remains poor. They're having a really hard time repairing it. Ticks remain above the 0 line. And the breadth is trending down while the breadth is trending up while the advancers versus decliners are trending down. Okay, well, now I'm bearish. That'll be what brought us below the ticks. Yep. Okay, so this increases the odds now, the lack of support there, that the market needs to rotate lower to find support. The next is right where we're at now, here in the POC from Friday. If we can't find support here, I'd be looking at the poor low that we left behind on 527. That's a bummer, Design. No, I'm sorry. I've been so focused on my own trade, I haven't looked over at the chat. Sorry to hear that, my dude. The day's not done, my friend. There's lots of opportunities to make more money. Also, that's the observation that you've made here in what caused it with the greed. That's a great thing to recognize because now you can create a strategy to counteract that. How do you stop yourself from being greedy next time? Maybe you open with 2 lots instead of 1, and then you make sure you take profits on the first lot, and then you be greedy with the second one. Something like that. Every mistake is an opportunity to learn. It's worth noting we are bearish here, and we are pushing down looking for support, which we have not found, so we are trending down at the moment. But I just wanted to mention that there is a lot of single prints in here in the B period, okay, and a lot of very thin volume. There's actually one level here at 4207 that only has 86 contracts, 88 contracts traded on it. So that is all likely to get backfilled. But first, the market needs to find support to the downside. So just keep that in the mind, but don't go long right now. Okay, so now that we are backfilling some of those low levels of volume over here, where do we look for resistance? Same place as we potentially had support at the POC here from yesterday. We may find some resistance right there. Okay, around the 4209 level. If not, back around the high where we put in this volume up here. That's the next resistance to the upside. This little, for those of you looking at this wondering, isn't this good support right here, Charles? It's a node of volume. It's right here next to this node of volume from Friday. Like, isn't that good support? Yes, in terms of volume, it's good support, but not in terms of taper. So we do likely need to revisit and put some more contracts a little bit below. Slade is back with us. Good to see you, brother. Yeah, I don't know how tight your stops are, but there is a lot of thin volume above us. So we'll probably get up there at some point today if you can wait out another pullback that's looking for support. This poor low to me is still kind of calling my name, right? I'm going to bring it back to being red just because I don't trust that volume that traded down there. Marco, again, same story. It's great when you can recognize what the problem is. As soon as you can say the problem is I take profits too early, boom, you can start to try to come up with a strategy for how you stop yourself from doing that in the future. Just like before with the greed conversation, right? Taking profits too early is fear. And you can kind of almost do the same thing, right? You enter with 2 lots instead of 1. And then when you're feeling fearful, you're winning, you're in a winning trade, but you're starting to feel like you need to take profits, just take profits on the first contract and then let the second one ride. You know, there's lots of strategies you can try and you can come up with to work on that one specific issue. Naif, that is great. It's good that you're trading on the sim account and that you recognize that emotion. Very good. And so the trick is now trade the sim account until you have no emotion in that. Until you can jump in trade after trade after trade, see opportunity and just crush it. Then you step back into the real money again. And the emotions will come in again. But then you can trust your system because you spent so much time on the sim account making money, winning. You can trust that you're a winner. And so then you just focused on your emotions. Man, we're right there. We're right at your level. It could be we brought in this node of volume just below, just above. We put in a little extra taper to the downside. It's still super low volume on the taper. But it's almost textbook. 900, 700, 600, 500, 500, 300, 38. It's almost textbook in terms of the taper. It's just not enough volume. So when it pulls back down here, you might find support. But you might not. Yeah, I hear that argument. I used to have that argument designed up on the sim account that because there's no emotion, it's not the same. But that's why I say it's not for, training yourself to deal with emotions. That you have to do while live trading. It's for training yourself how to read markets and enter trades and find, good entries and exits and where to put your stop and to work on a strategy. And then once your strategy is good paper trading in the sim account, then you go real market and you start putting real money on the line. And then you don't have to work on the market analysis anymore. You're just working on psychology. Yeah, Jeff, even the MES, though, is too much for some people. Even a single contract in the MES, if you went long on the high of Friday, you couldn't, like a lot of people with small accounts couldn't hold through this pullback. You know what I'm saying? It's just too much loss. They would have lost whatever, 300, $400. And for some people, that's too much, even on a MES single contract. So I guess not like 300 or 400. An MES would be like what, $200 for that much? Anyway, so for some people, the sim account is the better way. Just knowing it's not real money and they're just playing with Monopoly money, they can focus on the game and not the emotion. But yes, MES is another great option. Oh yeah, Naif, if you're trading the full size contracts and you have a winning strategy and emotion is the only thing that's holding you back, then yeah, switch to the micros and just work on managing your boredom. What I used to do is I would just remind myself if I had a win where like I only won $100 or only won like $500, I would just remind myself if it was an ES, it would have been $1,000 or $5,000. I just kind of like mentally would trick myself that way. Okay, so printing the C period here leaves behind all these single prints from the B period. Okay, you can see the yellow line right here from 4212 down to 4207. Okay, that area. Those are likely to be backfilled at some point today. Looks like we might be ready to break this downtrend in the ticks that we've got going on both indices. That could be a sign of support stepping in. And there we go with the backfill. We're also about to push right up against that 20 moving average on the SPX. If it acts as resistance, that would be bearish for further downside continuation. But if it's able to poke back up above and stay above, that would be bullish. Slade is yelling again. Good old Slade. You were right, man. You nailed it almost to a T. Didn't you say 4202? But there's always the chance that this is still bearish, right? We come back in, we backfill all these little low volume nodes, then find the resistance, push back down. All right, guys. Well, it is 7:30 West Coast time, and it's time for me to switch over to the Pirate Traders Brigade live stream, which is the private live stream. You're all welcome to join. There's a link in the bio below. You can click on to pay $10 for the membership, and then you can stick with me for the rest of the day. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you all here again tomorrow morning. Thank you very much, and have a great rest of your day. For those of you that are in the brigade, wait just 5 minutes before you go in to click that button to get to the new live stream. I just got to get it set up real quick. Okay? See you guys in a second. Bye-bye.